Consensus. To all agree. Raise your hand if you have ever tried to get consensus from a group of people or your family. I see some hands. It can be like herding cats. The very first time that I was exposed to a consensus exercise, I was so frustrated that other people didn't see things my way. Everyone else likely thought the same thing. What was so funny was that each person continued to hold strong to their belief, and the ideas bounced off obstacles and shot around like a ball in a pinball machine. No one listened to anyone. What I didn't recognize then was the significance in the differences between compromise and consensus. Compromise means some win and some lose. Concessions have to be made by all parties in order to reach an agreement, like a legal battle. Whereas consensus leads to ownership, which encourages commitment by all stakeholders. This process considers the wants and the needs of everyone, and ultimately a decision is made that everyone supports. The benefit is huge. So on June 9th in Banff, I led a class that I called the Platform Advantage that helps people to understand the importance of learning how to support yourself and regulate emotions in 4 stages that are represented by the Bow River Bow Falls Nature Walk. And I used this opportunity to incorporate a consensus project, knowing that it was part of this Toastmasters level 3. So basically, all students were to provide ideas that could create a personal support structure with 5 components. What did I learn from this project? A lot. I'll share, not 4, I'll share 3 takeaways. The very first one I learned was I needed to emotionally detach from the outcome, to kind of come from above the conversation and see it from third person. I needed to remove my own interpretations and emotional biases from the discussion so that I could really facilitate their comments versus guiding it or directing it. This was not always easy because I kind of like to control. That was a huge takeaway. But the benefit of this was that ideas could flow and creativity was present. And I got excited to hear the ideas, and then everybody relaxed. So this led to number 2, creating a safe environment where all the ideas were not only heard, but valued. There was time to ask questions and understand each person's contributions so that it could be actually considered. I made sure all students were given an opportunity to share their unique perspective. The subject matter was quite vulnerable and personal, and it needed the appropriate attention. I know there were a few times when I had tears when people were showing their courage. And it was important to take time to allow for these individual emotions. I was most proud of myself in being able to demonstrate a commitment to the process of incorporating feedback and ideas from all the stakeholders. The third key takeaway was to get consensus, it was important to remove unworkable options. So new ideas can grow instead of stumbling over prejudged belief. This was also tricky for me. It was almost like people pleasing jumped in here and wanted everything to just keep moving forward. However, as students realized others were sharing at a deep level and ideas were flowing, people actually were not offended if some ideas were taken out of the equation. As I was able to do this, it allowed for a clear path forward toward consensus, keeping it in a healthy bandwidth, and reinforcing the fact that consensus leads to ownership, which encourages commitment by all the stakeholders. This project was actually fun. I felt light and excited, and I really loved that everybody contributed. That was the best part of the whole experience for me, to see collaboration and community grow. So, in summary, leading people with a lighthearted attitude, detached from outcome, was a win-win strategy that created trust. Ensuring a safe space where each person was valued and heard for their ideas, whether they were adopted into the final plan or not, also developed trust. And keeping creativity flowing by removing ideas that got stuck created a respectful but secure structure. I hope you can incorporate some healthy consensus into your relationships, remembering that compromise requires all stakeholders to make concessions towards an agreement, which leads to unresolved resentments and a win-lose scenario. Consensus leads to ownership, which encourages commitment by all stakeholders. A win-win outcome. Back to you, Toastmaster Tammy.